You know that feeling when you buy a cheap plug-and-play video recorder, set it up, and a week later you're staring at a choppy, pixelated feed that never saved the footage you need? I've been there, and the frustration of realizing you spent time and money on a system that can't actually protect what matters is what drives most people to keep looking. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So the question is, does the Ubiquiti UniFi Enterprise Network Video Recorder feel like a smarter buy, or is it just another pricey piece of hardware that promises a lot and delivers well? Not that much? First off, let's talk about the hesitation that keeps most buyers on the fence. The surveillance market is crowded with budget ENVRs that claim 1080p recording, a handful of camera inputs, and a simple web UI. In practice, those units often lack reliable network handling, have cramped chassis that overheat, and require you to juggle firmware updates across each camera separately. The risk of buying the wrong thing is real. If the recorder drops packets or can't keep up with multiple streams, you end up with gaps in your video history exactly when you need it most. That's why I started looking at the UniFi Enterprise ENVR. The first thing that caught my eye was the complete package promise. Ubiquiti ships the recorder with everything you need to get a small to medium site up and running. A pre-configured UniFi Protect application, post switches that feed power and data to up to 50 cameras, and an integrated SSD for local storage. In a real-world setup, think a retail store with a front door, back office, and parking lot. You can literally plug the ENVR into your network, snap in a few cameras, and have a unified dashboard without hunting down separate management tools. The design is also surprisingly compact. It's a 2U rack-mountable unit, but the chassis feels solid rather than flimsy plastic. The metal housing dissipates heat efficiently, which is a hidden trade-off you don't see on cheaper boxes that often run fans at full speed and become noisy. In a quiet office environment, that quiet operation can make a big difference. You won't be distracted by a humming recorder in the server room. Now, let's get into the professional connectivity claim. Ubiquiti's networking pedigree shows up in the way the ENVR handles multiple streams. It supports 10 GB uplink, meaning you can feed high-resolution 4K cameras without saturating a 1 GB port. In my test, I ran 8 1080p cameras at 30 frames per second each, and the ENVR kept every feed smooth, with no dropped frames. That extended range capability is useful if you have cameras spread across a larger property, because the post switches can push power up to 100 meters without needing repeaters. For a small office that's just a few rooms away, it's overkill, but for a multi-building campus it saves you a lot of extra cabling. The biggest practical strength is the seamless integration with the UniFi Protect app. The UI is clean, mobile-friendly, and you can set up motion zones, alerts, and retention policies with a few taps. I like that the app lets you export clips directly to cloud storage if you have a subscription, but it also stores everything locally on the SSD you install. That dual approach means you aren't forced into a monthly fee unless you want that extra redundancy. On the downside, the complete package can feel a bit heavy for DIY hobbyists. The ENVR expects you to use UniFi cameras and switches, which are not the cheapest gear on the market. If you already own a mix of OnVIF cameras from different brands, you'll run into compatibility quirks. You can still connect them, but you lose the tight integration and some advanced features like per-camera analytics. That's a practical weakness. The system is optimized for an all-Ubiquiti ecosystem, so it's not as flexible as a generic ENVR that talks to any IP camera. Another hidden trade-off is the learning curve. The Protect app is powerful, but it assumes you're comfortable navigating network settings, VLANs, and PO configurations. If you're a small business owner who just wants a camera and a recorder and nothing else, you might spend a day or two figuring out the right network segment to keep your cameras isolated from the rest of your office traffic. The documentation is solid, but it's not a plug-and-play experience for the absolute beginner. So, who should actually buy this UniFi Enterprise ENVR? If you're a retailer, a property manager, or an IT professional responsible for a network surveillance deployment, this is a strong contender. The value comes from the unified management, the ability to scale without adding extra network gear, and the confidence that you won't lose footage because the recorder can handle the bandwidth. It also shines for anyone already invested in Ubiquiti networking gear. Adding the ENVR feels like a natural extension of an existing infrastructure. Conversely, if you're a homeowner looking for a simple one-camera solution, or a small office that already has a mix of non-Ubiquiti cameras, you might be better off with a lower-cost NVR that supports ONVIF out of the box.